Recording in progress.
Call this meeting to order at 7 p.m. Good evening, everyone. We reconvened a regular session. Get a roll call, please. Ms. Johnson?
Trustee Ingarrett. Present. Trustee Ochapindi.
Here.
Bahudin.
Here.
Vice President Leslie.
Here.
Here. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There are a few. So there's an amendment to Personnel Action Report on 13C1. The corrected version is now attached.
Okay.
We are going to pull item 16A2 because it is no longer needed.
The variable term waiver?
Yeah, it's no
Okay.
longer needed. That teacher is now credentialed.
Okay.
And then an amendment on item 18, we are going to adjourn in memory of Brian Naze and C. Sirhan.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion to approve with those changes?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And approval of the minutes?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
There's nothing to report out of closed session. And now, one of my favorite parts of the year is to recognize the Student of the Month. And this time it's the Student of the Month for October of the Adult Transition Program. Mr. Bashirs?
Trustees for recognizing, a Jefferson ATP student, a Student of the Month. It is our pleasure to present Rafael Thaddeus Guevara, JUHSD Student of the Month. Rafael is a student at Jefferson Adult Transition Program, and he will be graduating this spring. He completed his studies at Oceana High School in 2019, joining us at ATP for the 2019-2020 school year. Rafael tells us that his favorite experiences while at Oceana included math, that's very awesome, field trips, swimming, cooking, and community service. He brought those interests with him to ATP, where he has continued his education, including taking classes at Skyline College. When you meet Rafael, one of the first things that strikes you is how he carries himself with maturity and dignity. Rafael always takes a positive approach to his academic studies. He attributes this to his ability, in his words, to identify a problem and solve it, to come up with a new idea that improves things, to think about solutions. This solution-oriented approach to school is evident in the way he approaches his job at Walgreens, where he now works independently without a job coach. In the future, he would like to work at a movie theater or a restaurant. He would also like to work at the Apple Store, but ultimately his goal is to study engineering. Rafael also has an active personal life. His hobbies include watching movies, listening to music, playing sports, particularly basketball, playing video games, and chatting with friends. Also, Rafael really enjoys walking his dog. Rafael's teacher, Alexandros Dreyer, had this to say about him. For the past 2 years, I've had the privilege of working with Rafi. Rafi is an outstanding student in addition to being an exceptional person. He has overcome a variety of hardships throughout his young life and continues to persevere through new obstacles. Throughout his tenure at Adult Transition, he has grown immensely in his pursuit of independence. Currently, Rafi is enrolled in a general education class at Skyline Community College and has excelled in a number of work sites supported by the JUHSD Workability Program. In the classroom, Rafi has served as a role model to other students, and when the opportunity presents itself, Rafi helps his peers in performing either work-related or academic-related tasks. For future plans, Rafi plans to enter into the technology industry and apply his creative skill sets, and I'm confident that he will eventually discover a role that he will be passionate about. He has this to say as well: "I'm so proud of you, Rafi. Continue to believe in yourself, as I will continue to do, and I know that you will achieve greatness. Congratulations, you absolutely deserve this recognition, Rafi." Transition specialist Emily Hansen had this to say: "It's been an absolute joy watching Rafi develop into the independent and responsible young man that he is today. I remember the first time I took him to Skyline College several years ago, and I was showing him the Samtrans bus route in order for him to get home after class. He said, 'Ms. Emily, I already have the app and know how to get the bus home on my own.' That was the day I personally downloaded the Samtrans app for myself." Rafi has set many goals for himself over the years, and I continue to marvel at his motivation, organization, and follow-through. Rafi is synonymous with reliability, and I thank him for that. Rafi has also demonstrated tremendous leadership skills, and he doesn't miss an opportunity to support his peers. I'm so proud of you, Rafi, and congratulations on this acknowledgement. And so the Jefferson Union High School District Student of the Month, Rafael Guevara. By the way, he's joined here with his mother, Bernadette, and I'm sorry, you're his brother, right? Joseph, and Joseph is
Oh,
also
great. Would members of the board like to address Rafi?
Just congratulations on this honor. We don't give this honor out to very many students, and obviously there's a reason why Mr. Bashir's in the adult transition program felt that you were deservedly so in getting this award. So I'm just reading all your accomplishments, and they're wonderful, so we definitely wish you best of luck in the future. Congratulations again. Sorry, I don't want to embarrass you.
Just echo my colleagues' statements. This is an honor, and it's an honor to have you here and with your family to obviously accept this. And in addition, hopefully you can come back to the district in the future and share your experiences while you're a student here, and of course in your career moving forward. We always want our students to come back and play that role, because as teachers we know that our students obviously learn from us, but as we know too, we learn a lot from our students and of course our alumni and our district community. So feel free to come back and share everything you've learned and the kind of things you want to share with the next generation as well. Congratulations.
So thank you all for being here. Congratulations, Rafi, on everything you've accomplished. And to Mom, to both of you, sometimes your journey with your kids, it's hard when obstacles are put in front of them and they work so hard to achieve. And sometimes those obstacles for certain people are more than others, and it's not fair. And to see that you push through anyway, that you have to have that resilience and you continue to push through, is just a testament to who you are. And I'm happy that we could acknowledge you in this way. And to you, Mom, thank you for always supporting, because I know it's a thankless job.
Rafi, congratulations. Job well done. This is it's exciting to have you here this evening and to hear and read your accomplishments. And I look forward to one day actually popping to the Apple Store and having you help me with my iPhone. So, and what kind of engineer would you like to do?
Just doing network engineering. Apple can do a lot of things. They can do a lot of marketing, all the networking.
Great. Good luck. I know you'll do it.
Congratulations. So very proud of you. And Mom, what a wonderful, I could just tell you're so, so proud right now. And I don't think I could have gone to school and taken a college class at the same time. And I really wouldn't know how to navigate on a Samtrans app. I could not figure that out. My son could, and I could not. But I look forward to hearing all the great things you're going to do. You really, I'm just so impressed by you, and I'm so proud of you. And you make us look good as a district. Thank you so much. Now, we want to hand him his certificate, and then we'll take a picture with you and your family.
Short in the front, tall in the back.
One, two, three. And we'll watch this one. One, two, three. Okay, Chelsea? We're good? Okay, all right.
Thanks, Mr. Bashir.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a great coffee mug. Excuse me. That's so nice. Now for communications, her board report. We'll start with Ms. Garrett.
I would like to again extend my condolences to the Monte family. Another wonderful staff member of our community has passed, and it's tragic. At the same time, I always feel that our community is always so strong and always embracing all the things that have happened and continue to support everyone who is involved. So I really want to just acknowledge that and again, extend my condolences. And that's it. Thank you.
Mr. Ochapinti.
Yeah, just to echo that, of course, to our district community. Just thinking about the semester and at the point, right now, it's been a fast semester, but it is November. And reflecting on a lot of the loss in our communities, we are still in a pandemic, but situation and conditions have changed a bit. And to observe that our students, are in their second year and returning to schools, that the weight of a lot of responsibilities and financially, academically, just everything for our families in our district, things like this that are unexpected, definitely take a heavier toll. And just, keeping up with a lot of things we're seeing in the news and a lot of our students watching the outcomes of gun violence in Parkland, watching the sentencing today and seeing that in the news, and recognizing that a lot of our high school students were in middle school when these events happened, and the kind of impact that has in triggering trauma, or even just really just creating a different reality and expectations that our students should be resilient in facing, but also should not have to feel are normalized in our communities. And recognizing that this kind of violence can create two reactions. It can create more violence, or it can create solutions and more of movement and understanding that we can change some things we cannot change, but some things we can. And so just very proud of how far our students have come across our nation, here in our community. Sure that these discussions are being had in our classes, across classes, and of course in our ethnic studies classes, which have started this semester, and hoping that these events and even the loss of a teacher and family over the course of these past few years definitely bring, I think, a different kind of gravity to what we do in our classrooms in terms of teaching and understanding what learning loss is in terms of skill gaps, but understanding that our students have a high level of education and learning how to survive in this generation and strive. And so It is November 1st. It is also Native American and Indigenous Peoples Month, History Month and Heritage Month, and recognizing with all of our history and our heritage to kind of understand what the past, the present, and our futures are, and understanding how to channel that into our education in the present day. And so to that effect, I'm happy to be back here in what looks like will be an interesting semester, I think, in changing the future of our nation too within the election, just reminding everybody to vote next Tuesday if you can vote, and if you cannot vote yet, to encourage other people who can vote, who have the right to vote, and the privilege for those who don't have their voting rights restored yet or initiated yet, to encourage them to vote, get involved, raise your voice, speak up, and even if you can't do that on the ballot in an election, get involved in your community and speak up. There are many issues, obviously, that affect all of us, and every voice counts. Even if you don't feel it's popular or you feel like you are outspoken, people do agree with you and need to hear from you. And very proud to see our students and especially our youth in our community speak up over the past few years and make that change that's brought us here today. So that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you. Bless you. Ms. Salahuddin?
Thank you. I echo a lot of the comments that have been made by my two colleagues. It's, the passing of someone from this place to the next, it's hard to go on to move forward. I remember one time I was in the airport and there was a woman and she was in the security and she just stopped in line and just started crying. And when I went to ask her what had happened, she said she was going to her mom's funeral. And it was just so hard to get through the security line. And, it's just moments like that that I think about, that the world just keeps spinning, even if you are out of sync or just not aligned with it, or you just need a moment to breathe. And I think about that, especially with all of our staff here, because there's nothing faster than a school year. And it's really hard to take a moment to breathe with all of the things that are constantly required of everyone who works here, no matter what, place that you are, position that you are in the district. There's never a lack of things to do. And so I just wanted to say, I put on my social media as well, we will survive. The district will go on. Everybody needs to take that moment to pause if you need to pause. Because it has been a lot. We've, from what we've been told, and maybe more that I don't know of, but so far 3 members of our staff in a very close proximity to each other. And we are a very close district. We're a tight family. We have to be in order to survive. So each one of these losses is hugely significant. And, it's okay to take that moment to do what you need to do for yourself. I will also say that elections are extremely important, and I do hope that everyone votes, especially since the ballot is mailed to each of us. We have the extreme privilege here of the ease of voting, and that's not something that's available to everyone in America anymore, which is sad. But I'm so happy and proud to live in California, where it's one of the easiest places to vote anywhere. So take advantage of that right and privilege. I want to thank everyone who worked on the college and career fair at Serramonte. It's so happy to have that back and to see that it was so well attended. So again, thank you to all the staff and all the students that volunteered their time and everybody that came out and manned a table. It was great. I also just want to quickly acknowledge that the county acknowledged Transgender Pride, and they're having their flag raising tomorrow. And at the meeting today, because I listened to them, 2 members of the community came and spoke against that. And so it's just that wave is starting to come here. So just to all of our students, especially our LGBTQ and trans students who in this political cycle, it's just been a lot of vitriol. The district position hasn't changed, and we are home to however you want to show up. That's all I want to say.
Mr. Lee?
Just echoing the comments and sentiments of my board colleagues. But I also do want to send my personal condolences to the Nase family, and I'm so incredibly proud of the way our community has rallied around this family these past couple of weeks. And it's incredible to see the love and care that's happening, to read it online, to read it in emails, to know what's happening right now in the community room of 705 Serramonte. It's truly a powerful thing to know that we are an incredible group of people who comprise this district, who take care of each other and take care of our community and take care of our children. It's been since the last board meeting, it's been a whirlwind for me in terms of the things I've been attached to represent this district, to be at the Oceana Open House last week, the College and Career Fair with Ms. Salahuddin, the Bayshore Block Party on Saturday with President Tejada, and also being at the Styling College housing ribbon cutting when they opened their 30 units a couple of weeks ago. And that's a remarkable, remarkable development that they have. They're beautiful units. It was definitely an honor to be able to walk through their development and see the incredible good work that they've done. And to be able to speak with our Boulevard partners who also are managing that property as well. So it's been a lot, but I know that we keep moving forward. And there's a lot that we've done so far this year, and there's so much more that we're going to do. And I'm really excited and proud of the work that every single one of us is doing in this community.
Yeah, so a few weeks ago, my son and I went to NYU to visit Carly, who graduated from Jeff last year, and she's a freshman at NYU. It was family weekend. It was, she said, "Would you please bring my ballot?" And we're going to go through the ballot so I can vote. And I just love that girl. So I did bring her ballot, and so she filled it out. Yeah, it's, I just see how she's blossomed, and she's taking New York by storm, and she's just loving every minute of it. And just to think that not too long ago, her father passed away, and things were so hard for her, just in April, and 6 weeks before graduation, and that Jefferson family really got her through it, and so self-care is really important to us in our family right now. And that's part of the reason why I don't go to as many, events as I normally would have, because I need to take time to feel better. And it takes time. But I did go to the Bayshore Block Party. It was awesome. Got to see some old friends and meet new people. And just the energy there is fantastic. I love that community. And so with that, I'm going to turn this over to the superintendent report.
Thank you. Much of what I have on my list has been said. I want to offer deep condolences to the Nase family. And I, too, just want to echo that our district is really holding the family and friends of Brian Nase, and it's why we all want to be here. So it's a caring community. Was at the Oceana 8th grade open house last week. And want to mention that Terra Nova's 8th grade open house is tomorrow. And Westmore's 8th grade open house is going to be on Thursday. So those are events that are coming up this week. And those are really great events for 8th grade families to come and learn all about the communities. So they can make a good decision about which high school they want to attend. I want to congratulate Pat Ramos on her retirement. We've celebrated her a few times in the past couple of weeks, but her last day was last Friday, and so she's going to be missed, though I don't think she's going to go too far. I also want to thank Ann Carew and Denise Shreve, who worked really hard putting the college and career fair together, along with, I believe her name is Marie at Serramonte Mall. Really want to thank them. It was a great event. I was so excited to see the kids there, and we had the retirement party and the college and career fair the same night. So Miss Baca and I were kind of hopping in between. The Bayshore Block Party was really, really fun. I think it's their 3rd annual, and I can't wait for next year's. It was great to be in the community and to see lots of old friends. I used to be superintendent there a long, long time ago. So, you know, faces don't change a lot. There's a lot of the same people, and it was really nice to be there. So, yeah, a lot of fun events happening in the last few weeks, and lots going on in our district, and just proud to be here. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Now for the AFT Local 1481 report, Ms. Casey?
Thank you. I'm not going to repeat a lot of what we've heard already about voting, and also the community that we have, people have given from their hearts. And if you want to continue to give, there's emails that you can find from me. I want to say that our 1481 exec board just had an emergency meeting to look at the tentative agreement for this year. We did a lot of the negotiations in the spring, but we really had to leave some of it for this past week. And miraculously, we took 2 days, and it's a pleasure to work with our team here. You know, a lot of times you hear people talk about negotiations being, you know, really combative. And, you know, I appreciate our team is willing to talk to each other, but we're able to work in a positive manner. So my exec board voted to move it forward to our membership. I'll be putting that out on an email to the membership, and then we'll be voting next week. So, you know, if all goes well, then we'll be having our contract tentative agreement taken up. So that's all. But thank you to everyone who was on the team and on both sides. Thank you for the work we've done together. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Presta, do we have a COVID-19 update?
The update is that we will be sending home COVID tests with students before Thanksgiving break. And really, that's it. Yep.
Okay. All right, so now on to the consent agenda.
Move to approve consent.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, do we have any public comment?
No, we do not.
Now on to our wellness program updates. Yay.
I think, okay, I'll do it.
No, it's not a Zoom screen anymore.
Yeah.
That means it's too long since you've been here. Yes.
I even changed my sweater.
That's affirming. It feels so, that's so nice.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Welcome.
So nice to see you all. I'm Melissa Ambrose, the Wellness Coordinator for Jefferson Union High School District, and I have a wonderful colleague with me tonight who will introduce herself.
Good evening. I think this is, because I will introduce myself. I'm Michelle Fortunato Kewin. It is on. I am the counselor on special assignment. Specifically, my role is overseeing the mental health internship program and supporting with a lot of policies and procedures and making sure this one stays afloat. So that's a lot of my role. Ooh, okay, now it's working. So I wanted to, one, because I'm new in this role, and also a lot of you have not met me, but just wanted to share who I am. Melissa told me I have to explain who I am. Formerly, I'm Dr. Michelle Fortunato Kewen. I am a part of this district. I graduated 20 years ago in 2002. I was part of Jefferson High School's first peer assistance class. This is embarrassing to show, but it's on social media. So I am the one in the purple, so just with the Dragon Ball hair. Yeah. So
the tennis shoes are amazing if you can see this up close.
I worked at Kids Foot Locker at the time, so that's what helped. The reason why I think part of why it's important for me to introduce myself is because, when I'm thinking of Rafi, who is Student of the Month, and then just thinking of the comments of like him coming back here, this is full circle for me. Previously, before this, I was at San Francisco Unified for 7 years. While I was finishing my doctorate, I needed to work part-time. Melissa and Yvette both tapped me in to come over to this side. I was also in the Steps to College course that Miss Monica Casey taught. She was also my middle school math teacher, so this is how it
Were you teaching when you were 12?
I bring this back because really, it's still weird calling her. But I say all of this because I'll keep it real. I struggled with mental health in high school. I saw the special services counselor, which is now what the wellness counselors are called. I was an internalizer. So I was a student you wouldn't ever be called to the counseling office, wouldn't have behavior issues. I was an A to D student, depending on the year. And I say that because the peer assistance class, with it being the first one, it really opened my eyes to this work. Jeff Lippman, who retired several years ago, was the special services counselor at Jeff. He helped me actually get through SF State through my social work program, was actually the person who wrote my letter of rec for grad school, got me my first job right out of grad school. So I want to honor him because he is why I'm here today. And I'm also here today because I didn't see folks that look like me. I'm Filipino. We know this district has a lot of Filipino students. So part of why I'm here and in this role and I love being here is because this is home to me. I still live in the same place I lived when I was in high school, which means I could actually hear Jeff's bells. So my expertise and experience is really around suicidality, crisis response. I help write the crisis response protocol for SFUSD, and we'll be doing some of the work here around that. And my research was really on restorative justice for students who've experienced racism and oppression. So that's just a little bit about me.
And where'd you intern 1 year? Or work?
I worked 1 year at Westmore through Asian American Recovery Services, so back in 2008.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Fully
This is home.
Yeah.
Um,
And we're so lucky.
Very lucky.
Just want to say.
we want to highlight what our wellness team is doing, our strengths, our challenges, and what we're working on and what our needs are. As we all know, schools have tons of acronyms. We will try to say these but these are the acronyms you may see, but we'll also verbally share it so folks can remember or understand what it means. If there's any questions or if you need me to slow down, feel free to do so.
So this is part of our wellness team this year. I don't know if all of you, Michelle will go over this more in detail, but including the folks that are doing the therapy for students who have special education services and then have one of the services is therapy, I think we're up to 17, which is just really extraordinary. And I think we have a really amazing staff. And so this is a picture, one of our staff members who's also a graduate of our district, Harpreet Sangha. She went to Westmore, right in the front. Her family owns a pizza place, and we had a wellness social event. So this is just some of us. and then just a little tiny munchkin in the corner there.
Harpreet was the after-school care for my daughter when she was at elementary school.
Nah. Yeah, she was with Park and Rec.
Park and Rec, yeah.
So, and we have, well, Michelle will talk about that. We have a couple other graduates, so we're very lucky. So this was this year, this is last year, again, some of us, and we just wanted to let y'all see a picture of us, rather than going through all the names and every single picture. And we try really hard to create a strong team, connectedness and culture so that we can depend on each other, because we have a lot of intense things that we deal with. And so we're constantly calling, emailing, texting, G-chatting, and then have to occasionally go out and do something fun. That was brunch at Boulevard, I think.
So, we're talking about self-care. This is our self-care. Okay, so just the breakdown. So there's, for every school site, there's 1 to 2 wellness counselors. Every school has a school social worker. The educationally related mental health services therapists, they're the ones who see students in special ed. It's a weird number because I'm at Oceana, like one day a week, see a couple students. We have someone at Westmore, and then we have someone full-time at Jeff. And then we have the MHE, the mental health enhancement therapist, which is specifically the therapist for the mental health enhancement classroom at Westmore, who's there full-time. Melissa's our wellness coordinator. I am the counselor on special assignment. And this year, we bumped our interns and trainees to 9. So these are graduate level mental health interns from various universities. They intern with us anywhere from 16 to 30 hours a week. They get either a $1,000 to $2,000 stipend. And we're excited to say this year, with a lot of support, and especially shout out to Mark Bashirs, who supported us in we're actually placed an intern one day a week with adult transition and adult ed. So we have someone who's there supporting the students around their mental health as well. Also with, again, what Melissa said, we have a couple folks who are graduates. So we have a graduate we have 3 wellness staff who are graduates, 2 from Westmore and 1 from Jeff. We have one of our wellness counselors who was a former intern, and then our current interns and trainees, 3 of them actually graduated from our district. So we have 2 from Terra Nova and 1 from Westmore, and all of our interns and trainees, 8 out of 9 of them are bilingual, and they're all bicultural. So we were intentional in making sure we have students we have interns who look like the students that we're serving. Oh, and then part of our team is funded through the Mental Health School Services Act, which is on year 3, year 2?
No, we have 1 more year.
Yeah. So it funds
After
about
this school year.
three positions. So our strengths, really, we want to start with a strengths-based approach. Really, we provide a lot of services to our students and families. Melissa will show you the data in a little bit. Also, I want to recognize we are providing services and supports to our faculty and staff as well. And thinking of the passing of Mr. Lasse at Westmore, we were intentional as a team of who's checking in with the faculty. Do we need someone who's not part of the Westmore team to be in there? Because we also understand the Westmore team, the counseling team, and the wellness team are part of that community. So we were like, hey, if you need us to tap in, we've had wellness staff from other schools come in and provide that support. Our school social workers really focus on 3 focal populations: our newcomer youth, our foster youth, and then our homeless and unhoused students. This year, we've been updating our policies and protocols related to our trans and non-binary and newcomer students. And then a lot of our schools are doing a lot of creative things in terms of Tier 1 approaches, school-wide supports during lunchtime, flex, doing the community resiliency model, and social emotional learning. I know the team at Oceana is partnering with ethnic studies in terms of providing some wellness support around that. My position's new. We have more interns. And then a big piece of what maybe folks don't recognize with mine and Melissa's role is we do a lot of clinical supervision. So a lot of our staff are going up for state licensure. And what that requires is 3,000 hours supervised, 52 weeks of supervision. And most districts do not actually provide that. So our district, we provide the supervision for our staff, which I think is what gets folks in, because that can be costly. Folks, like, just to keep it real, for supervision, it costs about $100 an hour. So if you're thinking about you need, 104 weeks total.
And you need 2 units a week.
Yeah. So we're able to provide that for our staff who lead it, and then also our interns. And obviously, we do a lot of collaboration and consultation with each other, with the leadership team here, and with our faculty and staff. Yeah.
And I'll just say we have 8, so right now we have 8 staff working towards licensure, which is really, for me, it just means that, like, that means they're actively engaged in the practice of mental health counseling, right? So, like, that we are having conversations twice a week about practice, about how it's impacting them, and about, like, how they can take care of themselves, how they can take care of their students, how they can take care of their families. And so it's a beautiful sort of ongoing dialogue that we're engaged in. And there's the one thing I will say about our team is just that really deeply connected to each other and reaching out for support, and there's this sort of idea that we're constantly always learning and growing in the field, and we are doing a lot of examination around how does the culture even of counseling, how can that be oppressive, especially in terms of, that therapy is often very white culturally. And so we're really looking at, like, how can we meet our students where they are, who they are, honor who they are, and then divest ourselves from practices that we might do in the counseling room that could be oppressive, and could sort of continue the ideas of less than and not good enough, which is a lot of what we're dealing with in the therapy rooms, along with a lot of other stuff that you all know our students are dealing with.
Just briefly, I'm not going to go through all of our community partners, but we work with a range of different community partners. Obviously, Daly City Youth Health Center is a big one, and Jefferson Elementary School District, the County Office of Ed. We have monthly meetings specifically for the North County Collaborative, where we're connecting with a lot of the different agencies that we're partnering with, including our police officers and police departments. The last thing on that right corner is the different universities we've partnered with to get interns. So we have Berkeley, Smith, San Francisco State, San Jose State, and Cal State East Bay as some of our partners.
And then the top right one is that we do use Star Vista, which is probably one of the largest nonprofit counseling organizations in San Mateo County. And they have the teen mobile crisis unit. So if any of our counselors, or let's just say there was a day where counselors weren't on site and only admin were there, and there was a kid, they were worried about having any suicidal ideation, Star Vista sends a team out and can assess. They do trainings for us. They're just super supportive for us. They also host the teen chat room. So we try to foster a strong ongoing relationship with them. They also have another program where they send a therapist to Jefferson called Strengthening Our Youth, SOY, the SOY program. Supporting our youth or strengthening our youth, I don't actually know what that is. I have the MOU somewhere. So they're wonderful. And then we've done a lot of partnering in the last 2 years with Rape Trauma Services, which goes by RTS, and they've been doing a lot of push-in education at Westmore, and the wellness team at Westmore has been orchestrating a massive amount of presentations that are going on at that school. So this is just some of our organizations. Are we missing anything? No. Great. Do you have any questions? Because we're just kind of, nope, great. Okay. Okay, so data. We have tons more, and if you want it, I'll show it to you. But this is what happened with the data for me this year. I started pulling graphs and charts and freaking out and getting Green to help me and making it look good. And then I looked at it and I was like, does this actually mean anything for you all? And the thing about it is that the team changes sizes, right? So last year we had 5 mental health interns. This year we have 9. We didn't have all the ERMS counselors, so the folks attached to the students who have IEPs. So like when you start to look at the numbers, it doesn't actually always make sense. We also have some teams that are major synergy loggers. They're like all over it, and we have some teams that figured out how to do what's called batch logging. So when they go push into a class, they send a little, some kind of thing to IT, and IT magically populates every student in all 5 periods that they presented to a little note saying that the students in that class got a social emotional learning lesson or whatever. So when you look at numbers, what I want to say is that it's always hard for me to tell you all exactly what it means. So what I decided to do was sort of distill some of the most important numbers. And if you have questions about it, I'll answer. And if you want all the crazy spreadsheets and charts, super happy to share it too, and even kind of try to tidy it up so it makes a little bit of sense. It's not my forte, just so you all know. Data makes me a little cuckoo. But we have some amazing people in the district that are really helpful with it. So this is all for last year. In the 21-22 school year, we had a significant percent of our average, 33.6% of our district was seen by a wellness counselor. Now, how were they seen? It could have been pushing into a class, and it could have been we have a couple students that were seen like 20, 30, 40 times, right? Major crises, major containment. So it was anywhere in that range. So those are the percentages for each high school. And again, we can ask ourselves why. Oceana had a staff go out on maternity leave. We had a huge lapse in getting someone else in there. Michelle was at Oceana last year part-time. I came in, but I was sort of just doing my job from there and dealing with crises. So there's a lot of reasons why some of the numbers are different. And again, we have amazing loggers in some of the schools, and some of the schools, like they're not as log heavy, which doesn't mean they're not doing as much. And I nag them all the time. So, but what I see is that we had 12,805 contacts. Some of those are not actual sessions. Some of those were a wellness counselor picking up a phone, calling a parent or guardian. But that's a lot going on for, I think last year was probably about 14 people, plus some interns. So there were some questions about so we see students in many ways. So a student can self-refer, a teacher can refer, a student's friend can refer, a parent guardian can refer, any other staff member can refer, an administrator can refer, a community, sometimes we even get calls from one of the middle school districts and said, this just happened last week. A counselor called me and said, I can't give you the details, it's confidential. Please have someone check in with the student and just say, I want to know how you're doing. Something was going on, we don't know what it was. So we do that kind of stuff all the time. Every single site has an electronic Google form referral. And also a lot of the sites, like people will just run past a wellness counselor and say, Melissa, see Doreen. So there's a lot of ways that the information gets gathered, but the Google form is on all the schools' websites, on our wellness website, and the wellness teams often in the beginning of the year go in and push in to either the class meetings or into grade level, like I'll push into 9th grade English and just introduce themselves, show everybody where the forms are. Some of the wellness teams even made a
QR code.
Thank you. And have Instagrams. So I'm, again, low on the tech. Some of them are very high on the tech. Yeah. So the other thing that I'll say that I didn't show you in a graph is that when you look at this, who's being seen, it generally aligns well with the ethnic breakdowns in the school. There's some a little bit like where you're seeing higher population of students that are of what we call in Synergy Hispanic origin, and some, but I will say we definitely see more female identified students than male identified students, or like it's a significantly higher percentage, which I think is pretty normal for high school. And there's a lot of reasons for that. This is just another image of that, students by grade level, by high school. And You all have the slides, so on the bottom of the slides, I have like exact numbers that you can look at. And the other thing that is interesting is we do see more ninth graders and 12th graders by quite a bit, by like 500 sessions, which I think is a change. I can go back and look at the data because it used to be that the 11th and 10th graders were the high needs. And I'm wondering if this is related to like some of the pandemic lag. I'm not sure what that's about, but that's what was true last year.
I could assume with the ninth graders because a lot of them are coming from schools where they've seen a counselor, so now they know going into high school, like, oh, like I feel like that's what's happening is some of them are like, I saw a counselor in middle school. So they know now there's somewhat, which is good because that means the services are being provided at a younger age. When they get to high school, they're ready to seek out services or continue services.
And we did a pretty big push with ninth grade teachers last year saying, these kids have, like from the pandemic coming in, missed a lot of their middle school, like really keep your eye on them. So I think it's possible that we had a lot of referrals from ninth grade teachers last year because ninth grade teachers are paying a lot of attention to what's going on. These were some facts that I thought were really interesting. And I love the top one. So 78% of the students that we're seeing are only having 1 to 10 sessions. And that is what we want. Like we want to keep it that if possible. Because if you're seeing a wellness counselor more than 10 times, you're moving well out of sort of tier 1.5, tier 2, and then up. And it means there's a lot going on. And most of the wellness counselors on site are not doing therapy, right? We're not seeing kids weekly. We're seeing kids as needed until we can kind of move them on. So I liked that the 78%, that feels about right. And if you think about the multi-tiered system of support with tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, that's actually a really healthy breakdown of what we're doing. Yeah.
So when you say move them on, you're meaning move them to another, like, what does that mean exactly?
Oh, great question. So ideally, sort of pre-pandemic times, a lot of us felt like we could see a student around a particular issue, right? And help give them the resources and the support they needed to kind of be okay without seeing us regularly. A percentage of those students are like, yeah, I want ongoing counseling. So we fill our interns up, we fill the Daly City Youth Health Center trainees and interns up, and then we make referrals to Kaiser, which has been very difficult lately. And then we have this organization that the whole county uses called Care Solace, which helps people who don't have Kaiser. It does help people who have Kaiser, but a lot more so if you don't have Kaiser, navigate the crazy world of trying to find a therapist, right? So Care Solace is an organization that you can call up anybody in the district, a staff, a family, or a student can call and get help finding a therapist. So that's one other thing. Then another possibility that sometimes we're working with, again, we're moving out of the 78%. We're moving into that 20% of like what's going on. Sometimes we might say, wow, what's going on with this kid is so intense that we actually have to think about doing a possible special education referral and doing an assessment and seeing if we need to give like a lot more support, right? And then in some extreme cases, which we have regularly at each of the schools, we have to talk to families about hospitalization. We have to talk to families about inpatient treatment. We have to talk to families about what's called IOP, intensive outpatient treatment. We have to talk to families about, eating specific treatment, eating disorder. We have to talk to families about specific assessment and treatment for possible psychosis. So we have a very small percent of students that are experiencing such distress that it feels like it's moving in to some of the possible psychotic disorders. And there's a lot of research that says the earlier you catch that, you can almost make a major difference in somebody's life. There's also an early bipolar prevention program. So we're watching out all the time for those cases. And we're hoping that those are like the very narrow, not even the 20%, but like 10 of that, half of that 20%. But we don't want to have a kid and then who's having a tough time and be like, sorry, we're too busy, we can't see you. So the idea is to kind of figure out what is next that isn't necessarily the wellness counselor, and a wellness counselor or a school social worker will see a kid until we feel that they are in a stable, held situation. And again, the other thing sometimes we're looking at is where are they? Like, why aren't they coming to school, right? So do we need to contact home? Do we need to figure out, like, is there something we can do to make school a more comfortable place for them to be? So that's another thing that we're doing. Over there on the little Post-it note thing, I was surprised that our hospitalizations weren't up higher last year. I was actually expecting a much higher, and actually, I do want to note that the language we used on that is taken to the hospital. I don't actually have data on how many of them were held. So, but it means that their suicidality was so strong that the wellness counselor felt that we could not assure their safety and they needed to be assessed further. The hospitals are inundated. They are turning away kids that we just never thought would be turned away. Also, hospitalization isn't really the best treatment for suicidality. It's really like giving a pause for everybody. It's guaranteeing safety for a number of days so that the family can kind of figure out what's next with the help of hospital staff. But our hospitalization, our students taken to the hospital didn't go up very much compared to the year before the year that we were not in school for 7 of the months. So I just want to just note that. And then, so we did at least 120 suicide assessments last year. And again, there's a long conversation in our staff about what does it mean when we log an assessment? Because we are asking students daily, regularly, all the time, are you thinking about suicide? It is a regular, normal question for us to ask. So an assessment is when you're going quite a bit deeper than those basic questions. And a kid's like, yeah, sometimes I wish I wasn't here, it'd be easier, but I'm totally not doing anything or thinking of anything. Those we don't log as assessments. So the 120 were much more in-depth, long-term conversations. And there was probably more than that, again, because of the logging differences between our staff. And then I started a new logging form last year, so that last year's the first year of data for crisis reports. And so that form collects, this is all de-identified, just so you know. So there's never a student name on these logs because we don't ever want to link a student to a log that's like a Google thing, just for confidentiality reasons. But so we had 59 crisis reports last year, and those include Child Protective Services reports. We did not have any Adult Protective Services reports last year. We had quite a large number of sexual harassment, assault, and rape, and then a lot of different contacts with police for different reasons. And some of those are cyberbullying. Some of those were someone trafficking, someone sent someone a nude photo that then got, all that stuff. So that's what happened last year. Yeah, so the one thing that I'll say about this, and as we're moving on a little bit to the challenges slide, is that I think we do a beautiful job for the kids that are on the low end of needs and for the kids that are on the high end. Where we really, the middle is where it's hard, where kids have need, right? And like weekly therapy would be amazing. They're not in crisis. And when you call Kaiser, and if you don't say the word suicide, they'll be like, we'll call you back in 6 months. Like, it's that middle band of kids that it's hard to take care of. And they do have more needs than we can meet. And so that's just one of our areas of thoughts. And we'll move on to the challenges slide. You all heard already a lot of our challenges. I mean, the whole world feels like it has increased need for mental health support. Some of the intensity of the cases that we're dealing with feels to me like it's increasing. And that could be a little bit subjective, that a lot of us are feeling fatigued from the pandemic, from climate catastrophe, from the political tensions. There's a lot of stress. And then from public schools are just struggling. So it does feel, though, that intensity is increasing. I'm starting to feel we have had some turnover in wellness staff, and folks are feeling stressed. So, and that it's hard to kind of hold that, I want the wellness staff to feel really well. and really supported. I think they feel supported, but they're stressed. And actually an intern to me today said to me, "Are you okay, Melissa? Like, are you taking care of yourself?" And I was like, "Oh, I brought all my stress into that supervision room." So I think there's a lot of stress, and some of the trauma that we're hearing about over time starts to impact us. So we're doing a little more work on how to build resilience and how to protect ourselves and take care of ourselves. It's really important to me that our staff reflect our students' cultures and languages. Really important. It's important to all mental health organizations. It's important to the schools to the south of us that pay more. It's really hard to get. So right now we only have one fully bilingual Spanish-speaking wellness staff, and we need more. We need more Spanish speakers for sure, and we need more folks who speak other languages. So that's a challenge for sure. Moving us out of triage, which is like crisis after crisis. And the crisis, as you all know, for a teenager could be my boyfriend or girlfriend or partner broke up with me. It could be I got my cell phone taken away, and it could be my father died. Like we had several kids we've had several parental deaths in the last month at one school, right? So like that's a major crisis. But regardless of what the crisis is, we get stuck in kind of helping contain the crises, and that takes up a lot of time and energy. And so we're not planning, we don't have as much time to plan to push into classes and do more tier 1 or plan a big wellness fair at lunch or do in-depth planning for suicide prevention month. And there's always this tension between triage versus tier 1. Do you all need me to explain more about tier 1? Tier 1 are services that every student at the school could get. Right? So like when we push into classes, when we do a screening of a movie and have a panel, when we go do an assembly, those are tier 1 things. And those are preventative. And preventative, we should be doing a lot of preventative. And it's hard because we get stuck in our offices with the next kid who's stressed and the next kid and the next kid and the next kid. We still have more resource needs around our trans and non-binary students. I'll just say it, we don't, like, locker rooms are confusing and problematic. Bathrooms are confusing and problematic. The Synergy does a lot more now than it did before. We are stuck between California and technology and family. So students have incredible rights in the state of California, incredible protections. We're supposed to code switch with their families. And then Synergy has its very specific particulars about how names and genders are shown. And so we're working with it. I've added the policy, all the procedures to the weekly recap so you all can see that. And then our newcomer students need a lot of support. And again, part of that is Spanish speaking support and interns and trainees. We are running out of space, which is a beautiful problem. It means that we're increasing our trainees, we're increasing our staff. Daly City Youth Health Center, I think she doubled. In the last 2 years, her trainees have doubled. Like, people need a place to work. They need it to be confidential. They need a door to close. They need a sound machine to go on. They need heat. It's a great space to have, a great problem to have, but we need space. I don't know where we're going to get it, and we're being creative, and the school sites are being wonderful, and they're being helpful. So that is, and then, yeah, as you all know, like our salaries aren't competitive, but we have a wonderful staff and they do get supervision. As the staff grows, I have to work on better communication. Michelle really helps. Michelle's amazing. I think you've all been linked onto the wellness newsletter that we give to our staff every week. That's made a huge difference. So instead of getting 25 emails a week from me, they're getting the wellness newsletter. And I think they're all really relieved about that. So those are some of our challenges.
Just our last thing is really kind of looking at our next steps and what's in progress. So we're working on just larger wide policies and procedures. There is no crisis protocol for this district, so it's something that we've been working on, including like a home visit protocol, because as now we're back in person, we want to, our staff can do home visits, and we want to be mindful of how that's done. Really working with our communication with Daly City Youth Health Center, looking at tier 1 interventions. We've been building out our wellness drive, continuing obviously collaboration, consultation, and support with each other. The last thing this actually happened last week was we got invited to partner with on a grant with San Francisco State's counseling department to increase stipends for our mental health interns. Appreciate Ms. Baca, who helped gather a lot of data, because it was like a 1 week turnaround. And with that, again, it would increase supports for our interns, because what's happening out in the mental health field is a lot of interns in mental health programs are not able, they don't want to work for free, especially living in the Bay Area. So this grant would be for 5 years to support with, again, funding our interns who come in to provide these services to our students, and also supporting my role as a COSA in supervision as well.
Do you want to do that too? So yeah, our future needs are all the things that we've already talked about. So just so you all know, the interns that go down to Sequoia Union are getting $10,000 a year. So, we really want to, luckily we have interns and trainees that love our district. But, it's the same thing that this district deals with all the time. All the time. The financial pull to the north and the financial pull to the south, right? So the districts so that's something that we need to think about. We have the Mental Health School Services Act funded positions and the COSA positions, so that we have one more year of those 3 positions, fully funded positions. And then we have Michelle's part-time position. There's just no decreased need for wellness, as you all know. And there's no decreased need for good teachers and good staff and good administrators. So I'm not at all pretending that we're the most important part of what we're doing at all, but we have a lot of need. And I hope that we can keep all the positions. And then again, really figuring out how to support our students whose culture and languages don't match all of ours, and really increasing as much as we can, having our staff reflect our student body. That's it.
That's us.
We did it. And we have time,
Gonna
I think we have
clap.
time for questions if you all want any, or, I don't know.
I open it up to our board. Do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions, but I don't know you, Dr.
You can call me Michelle.
Dr.
It's
Michelle.
fine.
Dr. Michelle, but you are definitely fantastic.
thank
And we have the same energy. I'm trying to be a little, calm down over here. But we're the same here, and I appreciate you being here. And I think a lot of teachers and staff here work on love, and sometimes love doesn't pay the rent. So I hear you on it, and but thank you for all the work that you do. Melissa, you know how I feel about you, so we're not even gonna, in the interest of time, but thank you for all you do. Thank you for serving our students. Without you, maybe those 25 students wouldn't have even made it to the hospital, right? And that's heartbreaking to hear. And yes, it's tier 1 services that are needed, and not to downplay it, but they are, they're just as important, right? I mean, because it could escalate to wherever it might lead to, which is lead to a hospitalization. So thank you for being vigilant, staying on top of all the students, loving them, caring for them with wellness and support. And I appreciate everything that you do. And that's all I want to say. There's so much here. It's, but just you have it handled, and I appreciate you all. So thank you.
So, again, thank you for the presentation, and obviously the work that comes with it. I think a lot of the things that I, as a teacher, not just, in the field of special education, but in education altogether, is that our students see themselves as students in a high school and in the community. And so a lot of the problems that, they experience and they know, they share with their peers before they share with maybe an adult, right? Trusted adults, whoever, family. And some of those problems stem from conditions at home and in the community, things that are out of our control or at least out of our sight. And so I think, with expansion of our wellness team, and having a wellness team in our district, and with the Daly City Youth Health Center, as a former student, I can say, that was one of the places that I knew to go to for my needs. And if anybody else I knew, needed something, even long after high school, is something that I refer them to. I was actually working with Park and Rec through our teen services during the time of 2001 2003. So I do remember the work being done on sites at Jeff and of course, Westmore and Thornton, and Oceana and Terranova a little bit. But I know some of the most effective things I could do as a 20-something college student and, city youth worker was to work with youth and encourage the youth to come up with youth-led and youth-initiated services and projects and activities. And the city has a role to play in that through departments, through recreation and library now, though those programs have been greatly consolidated and reduced and otherwise defunded. A lot of that work still exists, and a lot of that through volunteers and through our youth. And so I guess my suggestion would be, of course, coming full circle, and like those of us who have had an opportunity to work for our district community in a career, environment, to encourage maybe, how we can tap into where students are seeing and hearing and feeling these things, the same way we've seen, this generation, whether it's called Generation Z or just, youth of today, really step up and address these things, up front. And so I think a lot of times empowering them to speak up and feel like they have a voice in not just self-care, but in mutual aid and taking care of each other. And I guess my question would be, where do we see maybe an overlap in terms of peer resources programs, which we do have on our sites, right, in classes, and academics, like ethnic studies, like, anything else on campus with the kind of programs that our staff and interns are working on. Maybe like what ideas or what activities have been suggested and what kind of overlap and collaboration maybe is coming out of that?
Yeah, I think I appreciate your comments and then your question as well. I think a lot of what we're seeing, this is where the tier 1 supports come in, and social media has been, I know in 2 school sites they've started using that because we gotta go where the youth are. Social media is where they're getting their information. We're working with like ASB, trying to work with also just other groups because we know the students sometimes we're trying to reach are not connected to ASB or like, I don't want to be associated with that. How are we connecting with sports? How are we connecting with campus supervisors? Because some of those folks are the ones that know our students, the ones who may be struggling, or I know when I was working at Oceana last year, it's like, okay, connected with some of our admin assistants, our attendance person. But I know a lot of the schools have different clubs where I know like there's some focus on like social justice and youth movements. And I think part of that is I think the struggle we have is really how do we reach all students? Because I know personally for me, I see a lot of students who are referring their friends. And I think the more we reach out to students and teach them different ways to connect, how to connect to services and what confidentiality means. Because I think the biggest thing is you're going to tell my parent or guardian that I said X, Y, Z. How do we do that in a safe manner? I've had always the idea of like, okay, the way we have to advertise stuff, we got to put it in the bathroom stalls. We got to put it in the because when you walk in the halls, there's so much stuff there. But I think, again, looking at how we can partner with different faculty and staff at the school who have different connections to different groups, and then also bringing in different community organizations as well. Because yes, they're part of our school community, but they're part of a larger community. And how do we bring them in as a way to just continue the connections and supports? Because we know what success shows for students is that if there's a supportive adult, and that supportive adult is not necessarily defined by teacher or whatever it is. Again, it could be the campus supervisor, the cafeteria person, or anybody like that. So I love like the creativity of like how do we do this and how do we get student voice. I know in Oceana last year when we pushed into all the 9th grade classrooms, we had a survey of like, what is it that you want? What topics do you want to learn about? And I think through that we were able to get feedback, and then we were able to share it kind of with the staff. Like these are what students are saying what they want, and how can we leverage other staff? Because again, wellness is 2 or 3 people, and I think what was helpful is some teachers are like, oh yeah, like students are really just wanting snacks or a place to play their games or be on their phone during lunch. My room could be open for that. So those are just some ideas I have. Melissa, don't know if you want to add anything.
We have a couple of the schools have, I'm not gonna remember the name, a mental health club, that's not the right. There's a name that's way nicer than that, not nicer, but more intriguing. Where students are, we're not ever allowed to say students counseling students, that's because they're not trained to be counselors, but students supporting students. And doing like destigmatizing mental health, so that is definitely going on at several of the schools, and the wellness counselors run those clubs. And the stuff that's going on in peer resources is pretty powerful in a lot of the schools, and they do campaigns, and they partner up, like at Jefferson right now, the peer resources class is partnering up with a class that I think is called social communication skills. So, and they're doing like every Wednesday they get together and they do like games and play and hang out with each other, like kids that normally would not ever be interacting with each other, really trying to build bridges. So there is stuff like that going on in each of the schools, but it's a wonderful suggestion, and I think you're absolutely right. Like guiding students in this is really beneficial. And then some of the schools do have, we have groups that run, so they're counseling group, therapy groups, the interns do that. And then there's some schools that are doing sort of wellness initiatives. So like in the flex time, like you can come and do yoga once a week. Or I know one of the wellness counselors at Terranova during flex time has basketball. Like he just goes and plays basketball. And it's amazing how many kids are coming out and like just kind of chatting with him while they're playing basketball. So it's just like kind of this open, more like we're playing basketball because it's good for us. Not for any other reason, just because it's fun and it's good for us. So there's some of that going on. And again, this is that tier 1 triage tension around, it would be amazing if we were out there just nurturing students to nurture students. I would love that. I would love to work at a time where we had either that many staff or that low of triage need.
That's good to hear. It's a great place to start, and looking forward to seeing more of it.
And I didn't say this, but I think you all know, we have an amazing staff. Like, you can thank us, and we're wonderful representatives, but like, the folks that are at the schools are doing extraordinary work, and every single one of them has a beautiful heart, and really like very wise understanding of teens.
Our gratitude extends to them as
Yes, yeah, I know that.
Absolutely.
But I just want to make sure that we're really honoring them. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I'm here because of that.
Because you're only 2.
Yes.
Yeah. Out of 17,
Yeah.
So thank you. You answered a lot of the questions I sent ahead of time in the presentation. And I think the main thing that I was trying to gauge is, and you touched on a little bit, is just are the students that need services or need attention getting the attention that they need? And how do we gauge that at the board level, and so I don't know what data to use, but I would like to have some sort of metric that we foundationally ground us and then use. I mean, it is good to hear and understand that ethnically is reflective, who's being seen is reflective of the community. Is that also true socioeconomically? So I guess that's my first question.
I think just that's such a good question. And I think one of the things that comes up for me, and I know in other districts I've worked in, it's been a struggle of like deciding, do we do universal screening? Which, again, I don't want to speak highly on it because I haven't looked into the research on it, but in some school districts, they do universal screening for all students when they come in around mental health. The problem, a little bit of that, is when you do universal screening and you are able to identify all these students, if there's not enough services, like, are we doing a disservice then? There's different ways we find out about students, again, through articulation with the 8th graders, the meetings with 8th grade and our high schools. And then especially in 9th grade, we try to push into all the classrooms, and then talking to teachers of how do you identify students. But I feel like the students that I see that I didn't realize I needed to see were honestly referred, either they referred themselves or another friend referred them. So it's going back to like, how do we get the word out of wellness that we're a safe place? And safe is obviously a subjective word, and to some folks, regardless of, even if we say explain confidentiality 20 times, we're not going to be that safe person. But then also, how are we providing other resources and supports? But that was just one of the ideas that came to mind in terms of how do we determine, are we serving who we really need to serve? I mean, it might be part of this. Another idea is like really thinking about like how are we reaching parents and guardians
Right.
to determine, do they feel like we are serving their students? Yeah.
Including
Yeah.
the one year we did a couple years in a row, we did like a survey for all the seniors leaving Oceana. And we asked them, there was questions about all sorts of stuff, but I threw in wellness questions. And it was interesting because it would ask them like, did you see a wellness counselor, da, 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 da. And the kids that was like, this was awful, I was able to look up and I was like, oh, that was a CPS report. That was a kid that we had to send to the hospital. And that experience was awful for them, right? It was awful. So then when we ask ourselves, are we doing, like, it's so subjective.
Yeah.
I will say again and again, if any of you has any relationship with any of the people at Kaiser, the vast majority of our students have Kaiser. And many of them have Medi-Cal Kaiser, right? They have Medi-Cal and then they choose Kaiser as the provider. And when we're looking at our students who have Kaiser, who are looking for weekly therapy, it is non-existent. And kids will be hospitalized for not just a 3-day hold, but a 5-day hold or a 7-day hold and come out without an appointment for a whole month.
Yep.
So so then we try to see them as much as we can, right? So we're trying to hold that at school. So, but I do think it's a really worthy question of like, how do we actually measure the effectiveness of our work?
Right.
And then that's a constantly moving target, right?
Right.
Like as the pandemic kind of doesn't seem to end and, politics are so complicated, like the stress levels are really high. And so is it that we're not doing our work well, or is it that stress levels are high and like then you're constantly, but I think it's a great question. And I think I'm sure through Michelle's connection, there's lots of excellent surveys and tools that we can use to ask kids.
Yeah, and then just really quickly on the Kaiser, like we could touch base after this. It's one of the things, I'm on the board of Kaminar, I just joined the board of Kaminar. And so that's one of the things that I'm really focused on there, and trying to have the county help. So I can reach out to you to get more stories so we can talk about it. The other question that I had, when you talked about the appointments or just the referrals and how, I wasn't shocked that it went down and then up, because I feel like suicide reports and because I feel like even for me, I was like, I've been like really depressed and I'm like, what is it? I feel like I'm processing what just happened. I feel like last year it was kind of like, I don't know what, I filled my time with stuff. Like I was super busy during COVID, more busy than I've ever been. So there was no time to really think about what was happening. And now that things are kind of getting back to normal, my schedule's getting back to normal, I was more busy because I had so many meetings, because you could with Zoom and everything. Like you could fill your time. Now that we're back to normal, I feel like I'm going through the down of, that was crazy. That was insane what we all lived through. And I wasn't touched by significant loss in family or anything like that. So I can't imagine what it's like now for people who are back at school, and you're around someone who may not have had anything happen to them. I feel like the back to normal sometimes is worse than when everybody was in trauma. So I feel like it's going to be more years. I mean, I feel like we're going to have more years of this. So thinking about what we can do, we've seen it play out at different schools. Like, what do we do to ensure up the support services for the students, but also for the people that are giving support? And so, and you don't have to answer this today, but just getting information to the board on what we need to do to support you all as well, because it was touched on here in the meeting. And then last is just just remembering when I first heard about Tier 1, right? And that was a while ago, and it was new to everybody, and we're all like, what is this thing? So to now see it in practice, like, I'm super proud of us. And just really thankful for the entire staff, because this is something that the students have been asking us for a while. And I think at some point you're coming to talk to the student trustees and the advisory committee. So that's a good resource. But I know that the students have been asking for a while for beefed up mental health services and support. So I'm glad that while it's, nothing is ever what we would love it to be in a perfect world, I'm glad that we're able to do the best that we can here. And to see how far we've come is so impressive. So thank you.
Thank all of you, because you all support it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for this tonight. I mean, this is, when I think about the 7 years I've been here, this is probably the most comprehensive look at what we've done. But then we have grown, and we have dramatically improved our services to students. And, and it hit me when you spoke, Melissa, specifically about the stipend that they're getting in other districts. And it just simply reinforces the work that I want to keep doing to make sure we can sustainably support these types of programs in the long run, and to be able to make sure that our interns, our counselors, everybody can live here. Because fundamentally, this really needs to be on an equal footing with the academics that we're doing with the students. Because if the students aren't healthy mentally, they're not going to be able to focus on their work. It's just that simple. And we have a moral obligation to make sure that we take care of them, the whole person, not just the academic person. So thank you so much to you and your team for all the work you do. And happy to continue to listen and find ways to continue to support the work you're doing.
Yeah, thank you so much for your presentation, and I loved how just that word of intentionality is so important, and that, I echo what everybody else said here, that you're doing work that is, it's changing lives, it's saving lives. I mean, it's super important. So when my daughter Carly started high school, her grandmother died. And then later, her grandfather died. And then the pandemic happened. And she had a rough time during the pandemic. And then her father died. And even during the pandemic, she had teachers referring social workers to her and kept me out of it. It was totally private. And I went, what? I mean, I didn't even know. She says, well, we need to get back home because I have to be home by 2. I go, why do you need to be home by 2? And she said, because I have an appointment with a social worker. I went, you what? And it was because a teacher had referred her. And then later when we came back, she kept getting pulled out of class to see a wellness counselor, and it was different friends referring her. And she didn't understand. I said, is it helping? She says, no, it's not helping because I don't want to talk. And I said, but what does it tell you? Well, it tells me people are worried about me, and I guess there's something going on with me. And so we, she's maybe 5 times she was pulled out. But it was a wake-up call, and we found out that she could get services through the bereavement, through the hospice services, bereavement counseling through hospice, through my dad. So she was able to do that. And she speaks very openly about the importance of therapy. And even in school, she did. But I was always so very thankful that people saw, and here I'm on the board, I didn't even see this happening with my kid. And I think part of it was because I was in my own stuff, And so we have people like you looking out for our children. And I wish we had more resources, but I see the amazing work that we're doing And I want to thank you for that. And if we have no other questions, no? All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
See everybody.
Yes. And to meet.
Person.
Yeah.
Got some action items. Reclassification of database specialist.
Good evening, everyone. Before you this evening is a reclassification of the database specialist job description. Since the job was created, there have been some additional things added to the position, including understanding command script languages such as Batch and PowerShell, which I kind of had to research myself, and database structure and reporting languages. And with these additions, the job has become more complicated than initially proposed or presented. And so we'd like to update the job description to capture these things, as well as reclassify it from a range 71 to a range 76, recognizing that this position has some specialized skills.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for, I mean, that's huge, I think. Thank you for doing that. And so we have pulled item 16A2, correct? Now on to business services. We have a public hearing and action for the authorization of conveyance of a sewer easement to North San Mateo County Sanitation District. And that is Resolution 2022-23/7. Deputy Superintendent Van Raphorst.
President Hada. Good evening, everyone. We, at our last meeting on October 18th, the board adopted a resolution of intent to convey the sewer easement for our faculty and staff housing project to allow the sanitation district to continue sewer service to that property. So a notice of public hearing was posted, and now tonight, the second two steps of this process, or step 2 and step 3, will happen tonight. Step 2 is to open a public hearing, and then step 3 would be for the board to adopt the resolution.
All right. I'm going to open the public hearing. No comments. Closing the hearing. And now do we have a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And now for our second public hearing and action for the authorization of conveyance of water, utility, and public access easements to the City of Daly City, Resolution 2022-23/8.
So this is the exact same process, but for different easements. 3 easements to be conveyed to the City of Daly City, again, for our workforce housing program 705 Serramonte, for water, utility, and public access.
Okay. We'll open a public hearing. Seeing no one, we will close the hearing. And can we get a motion to adopt the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And on to a consideration of future agenda items. Do we have any? No? Okay. Now on to the adjournment. We adjourned tonight's meeting in honor of 2 people, Brian Nase and Siram Sirhan. Brian Nase came to JUHSD in August of 2002 as part of a group of teachers from the Philippines. Brian spent his entire 20-year career at Westmore High School teaching science and being a mentor to the students and all who knew him. Brian had a gentle nature and a compassionate soul, and will be remembered as a kind-hearted teacher and friend. Brian passed away on October 25, 2022. He is survived by his wife, Anisha, and their 2 children, Nina and Sean. I would like to comment that I spoke with Brian at the beginning of the school year, and he was so thankful for the workforce housing and for all the work that we do. I His wife Anisha was Miss Anisha to my daughter. Carly was her preschool teacher here at Young World. And Nina was my son Evan's classmate and Green Hat. So this really hits hard for me. And I haven't been able to go over there yet, but I will. C came to work in JUHSD in August of 1990. While at JUHSD, she served in multiple roles, including cafeteria worker, health aide, receptionist, counselor secretary, and registrar at Jefferson, Westmore, and Thornton High Schools. She was a wonderful liaison with all students and especially helped with our Arabic-speaking families until her retirement in 2019. C passed away on October 3rd, 2022, and is survived by her 3 children, 3, soon to be 4, grandchildren, and many brothers and sisters. We, the Jefferson Union High School District Board of Trustees, send our condolences to the families, friends, and host of loved ones. Can we get a motion to adjourn, please?
Move to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.